Welcome, everybody. This is Zarobust Season 2, Episode 1. We are brand new and exciting with video for the very first time. My name is Nick, and I am a weary traveler at the moment. And my new personal goal is to stand as still as absolutely possible so that you think my screen froze.
I like the strategy. Like, Nick? That's pretty good.
If I may, is it because you're tired or because you're just messing with us?
Oh, yes and yes. Would be my thought there.
Nice. Well, we got the video going. So if you're listening on one of your podcast listening devices, we'll be on YouTube now, so you can check out the video there to see us. Otherwise, continue listening on, because some people just like listening, and it's way easier than seeing the video of us and our silly faces.
If I may, I think this is best for our parents, or at least my parents, and that they're going to be able to see me for once.
Right?
Which is,
my mom
I
brought
should Skype more. Skype more.
My mom
Sorry,
brought up the
Mom.
same thing. It's like, it's nice listening to the podcast every week. We should have like an hour a week where we just talk. And I was like, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but every week, like, can I just call you with major updates? Like, I don't think we need a scheduled like time each week. I think
That could be
doesn't
on the
your
podcast.
significant
On the
others,
pod-
families have that same thing going on?
Yeah, we could have a new podcast altogether. We could have two going at the same time. We could have our usual Zarobust update, and then we could have a family hour
Family
to
hour.
get together and
Family
share
minute.
that, because my mother clearly needs to be a star on the internet.
Oh, that would blow up though. Maybe we could some singing in
There we go.
as well.
For Mother's Day, we'll all bring in our mothers. For Father's Day, we'll all bring in our fathers.
Top 10 worst ideas. Let's roll with it.
No, I think it's going to be great.
All right,
There's lots of
gentlemen,
interesting-
the format, please. Introductions. Let's stay on cadence here.
Oh, we're past that. I'm Kyle. We got Brent. Brent, what do you
hey.
got going on?
Going on.
Yeah.
I just had visitors. This guy, right? Actually, where's Nick? Is he in my left or my
He's
right?
to your left.
This left?
Yeah, that way.
No, yeah. This guy up here just
Your left.
visited. This is new. We're learning. This guy up here just visited the past weekend. Hi, Juliana.
Sorry.
And
Wife saying goodnight.
derailed. But Nick visited this past weekend with Megan. Awesome time. We bought a car. We went hiking, and then I think Nick was done for the rest of the weekend. And we did other stuff, but after the hike, that was pretty much like that was the top of the mountain. And once we got up there,
Did you hike to the top of the mountain?
and down the side of the mountain, and then back up the mountain, and then back down. We went over the mountain and down the mountain.
We went to the top. That was fine. We oversaw the lake area, which was very pretty. And then we're like, oh, well, let's go down to the lake. And so we went down to the lake, and some more avid hikers were like, oh, yeah, like 20 minutes, no problem. Well, 40 minutes later, we get to the
Let's finally get down the hill.
And by the time I got to the water, I'm just like, screw it. I'm going in. Like, I'm not going to die from hypothermia. I'm built for the cold. So I just start like marching into the water, and even Brent just looks over like, what's going on? Like, he's on board with getting in the water because he'll follow me into crazy shenanigans. But yeah, ended up going swimming, and that was lovely. And then we had to hike through the snow back up to the top of the mountain to then go back down the other side of the mountain. So yeah, that was my physical activity for the weekend.
So Kyle, you remember? I think like our fourth episode or fifth episode, I talked about a hike we did where I dove into a lake.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
We did that again, except for this time, instead of being the summer, it was October,
It's cold.
and it was just Nick and I. And I get into.
Just
I was ready
dudes
to go
jumping the
in.
lake together.
Yep, I was ready to go in, and I was like, I got ready pretty quickly, and I look over, and there's Nick already just like waist deep in the water. I thought we were gonna like
Past the
wait
moan
for it a
zone.
little bit. I thought we were gonna, jump in together or something. Nope.
Hold hands.
Nick just no, not hold hands, but I thought there was gonna be like any sort of hesitation from Nick, but he was just He was in. He was. I
No.
looked over. I'm like, he's
No
under the
hesitation.
water.
That's
I will
like,
say I jumped in twice. He only
if I
jumped in
may,
once.
I would say if I had any fear, it would be cold water. Like I just don't do cold water. Like once I'm in, I'll be okay. But the whole like convincing my body to be like, that's really cold water. Let's jump into that. It's just not. It's not a thing that my brain likes to do. Like once I'm in, I know I'll be fine. But the whole jumping into cold water, when I know the water is cold, I know this is gonna suck. You know, you get the whole mangina thing going on the moment you jump in. It's just, it's not something that. If I had one fear, I would say that would be like one thing that's a consistent thing that is not for me.
The water actually was about the same temperature as the air. I thought, like I got in and I was shivering before I went in, and I came out and I was shivering, and I was in the water. I was shivering. It really was no,
No
difference.
difference.
Like
I don't know if it's a
where I
good gauge.
was, it was
I'm
the
not a
same.
scientist, but
It felt like it was both 40 degrees, which was frigid but survivable, and it was a good experience. My
it
favorite
wasn't
part.
as cold as Superior, actually.
No,
I
it
mean,
definitely
it was,
isn't.
it was warmer than Superior. Like in summer.
Superior is cold. I've jumped to Superior before. That's
Yeah.
chilly.
My favorite was you're on these hikes and it's always like kind of tiring. It's just we don't have to go all the way down, and then you see some guy with just the tiniest little dog, like wee little bit walking down, and it's like if that little dog can go further with those
I
short
can
little
do it.
legs, like, there's no excuse. Like I can't even complain. Just gotta keep going.
There was
That
a
was
dog.
fun.
So when Juliana and myself went on the hike up by Rainbow Lakes here in Colorado, we got to like all the way to the end, and then we saw this like girl like jogging through what we were just hiking through, and then she had a dog with her that was like, it was a 3-legged dog. I was like, all right, I have zero. I'm not tired anymore. No longer tired. Like, nope.
I'm not disabled.
Right? And actually, Rainbow, that was a pretty easy hike. It's just, I mean, with the elevation, and then also like we went a lot further than the quote unquote end of the trail. Like it ends at a lake, and then we just like kind of kept going until there was no deer trail or anything to follow. Where I wasn't. It's one of those things where like I'm sure I could find my way back, but I don't really feel like getting lost in the middle of nowhere. So,
It's always a good thing.
But yeah, there's the
Always a good
3-legged
thing.
dog. I'm like, dang, you go, dog.
You got it.
It's horrible.
I feel like the hike was a long time, but I feel like probably the longest part of that day was getting the car. So we get in there, we think we have a plan, and 3 different payment methods later, because we got the car and we got out 2 hours and 3 different payment sessions later. But
So you just like pay them in 3 different increments through 3 different ways.
yeah, so we
You're like,
paid
here's
using
a couple $1,000 through Venmo. Here's a couple $1,000 through personal check, which is the max they'll allow, and then here's a couple $1,000 in cash that we've acquired through ATMs over the past 2 weeks.
It was not quite like that, but very similar. I would say that was definitely the general feel and vibe of the whole thing.
Yeah, so
Thankfully-
Megan and I were if I may,
You may.
Megan and I were standing there watching this gong show go on. And
Sorry, real quick. I
lady-
can just picture Brent being like, but we can do it. Like I can just knowing Brent, like how he's gonna act
I
in
was
that
ready to be
situation,
done.
being like, no, I promise. Sorry.
So
continue.
this
That was pretty
lady,
much it.
this lady was super concerned about getting the money in her actual account, which is safe and logical. Like I'm good with that. That kind of makes sense.
He's not
But
wrong.
the reason I found out, because we stood there for like an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it was, the reason I found out, why she wanted it so badly, specifically in her account, was she had talked to the banker. And I'm going to go off on a brief rant here about this banker.
This was a
because
great moment of the morning for sure.
Okay.
It was.
This was a
We're
good
s-
moment for us.
We're standing there. This lady is saying she needs to have the money in her bank account. She will not accept that it's under her PayPal account, under her Venmo account, under whatever. We're going to set
Must
aside
be
the fact
in
that we
bank
that
account,
we
see
paid
the number.
3 different ways. But we're going to just set that issue aside and say, okay, aside from the fact that we paid 3 different ways, you have possession of the money through these methodologies. Well, I sit down with the banker in the corner because we've been standing there for 45 minutes while Brent and Heather are working through their details with this lady. And I got time. I'm just hanging out. So
You
I
got
talked to
nothing
this
else to do.
banker who, I talked to this
a
banker who
customer.
had addressed the lady beforehand and had answered her questions. And I just say, so hey, what do you know about this situation? Oh yeah, the lady told me about it, and she needs to have the money in her bank account. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but can you tell me why it wouldn't be good enough to also have it in a PayPal or have it in a Venmo, and instead of needing the deposit to go through the day, because the hang up is the banks. The banks don't move quickly enough with respect to if you have the money transferred to your account, then you need to have it transferred from the app, PayPal, Venmo, whatever it may be, into your bank account. And the witchcraft of possession with respect to these apps was beyond her. She was the queen bee, if you will, of the bank branch on a Saturday. So she was high ranking. And she gave me the business about how the money needs to be in the bank account. And just with talking with her, she was an older lady. Not to knock on older ladies, there are plenty of smart ones, plenty of who are with the ages and hip and fresh and understand technology.
We like hip old ladies.
This was not one. This was not one. The fact that we were talking about PayPal or Venmo was witchcraft, and she would not have any of it. And I guarantee, had she not been in the equation, we could have had this sorted out in half the time. It's still going to take a while because, again, we're paying 3 different ways. That wouldn't have been my ideal choice. But I'm talking to this lady, and I realized she was just this crazy old bird lady, just with no idea about technology or anything. And she, was not having any of our witchcraft Venmo or PayPal transactions.
You cannot just give me money through your phone.
It's secure in today's world. It's like, oh my God, relax. Like
my favorite part of that
situation, regardless, but the lady was just, I couldn't get over how high and mighty she came across as when you're the top ranking person there on a Saturday.
On a Saturday.
Okay.
I am the Saturday boss.
You are the Saturday boss.
I'm a big deal on Saturdays, but I am a big deal.
For any potential viewers that are bankers who are managers on Saturdays, I'm sorry.
My favorite part of this whole thing is Heather and I are trying to figure out these payment things. We're talking with the seller, and we look over a glance to make sure Nick and Megan are doing okay. And Megan is standing there, and where's Nick? Look around, and he's sitting across the desk from a bank that he just walked right up to.
Oh, I'm just getting a credit card while I'm here. I thought that'd be faster.
No waiting in line or anything. He just goes down and gets to business. And I honestly thought when I studied there that something was going to happen, something really good. Like you had it figured out, but
if obviously I was dealing with someone who had a brain from beyond 1980, we'd have had it worked out. But.
Oh, so it wasn't the seller of the car that was having an issue? It was the
seller of the car was having an issue as well, but
the seller was counseled by the lady at the bank.
Okay.
So this lady who didn't understand everything herself, but is more modern. She wasn't an older lady. She a family. She was there with her husband and 2 kids. Nice lady. Very pleasant to talk to. But we had the 2 kids and the husband just hanging out bored with us in the lobby for the better part of 2 hours.
Start rock, paper, scissors competition or something.
They showed up early to the bank, which is where we met, and they met with the banker just to talk through the situation. And this lady who looked at Venmo and PayPal as witchcraft was counseling them that only the banks are secure. You need to have the money in the bank or it's not a transaction.
Or
it's
like, can't guarantee that's part of your money. Yeah.
Right. And that's part of what I was sitting down. I'm like, so can you walk me through, what their concerns were or what seemed to be the issue? Because as far as I understand it, and I'm putting myself in the we just for the sake of the story, but they've transferred you this amount. You have this amount in your account that we transferred that way. You have this amount in your PayPal and you have this amount in your Venmo. Again, it's ridiculous that you're paying them in 3 ways. Not the point of the story for today. But I'm explaining this to her.
We covered why last week though.
And she had counseled them that it needs to be in your actual bank account, and it can't be with PayPal, can't be with Venmo because those are unreliable.
To be fair, with PayPal, I think you have a certain period of time where you can take back the transaction. Be like, hey, like this isn't right, like take this back. So I know there is some things with PayPal where people on the internet in general have gotten screwed by getting paid through PayPal, especially individuals rather than corporations where you have more, backing in your position as far as being like, hey, we're Microsoft. We know that these guys are trying to screw us, that kind of thing versus an individual or a small business. So I know PayPal in general goes towards the benefit of the doubt on the buyer's end, whoever's paying for stuff.
Yep.
So
I get that aspect.
Yeah, so I think the thing that helped push us through was the fact that they wanted it so quickly, the money so quickly, and we had to look into creative options to try and get it as quickly as we could. And the real kicker is if we would have just the day that we first met them, just put a check in a couple of checks in the bank, it would have already had cleared through by Saturday, and it would have been good to go. So just because we were trying to accommodate other things, it had to end up being as complicated as it was because once you commit to one method, you have to stick with it because that money all goes into that method. Once you commit.
Yeah.
What did you commit to? You paid him with 3 methods.
Well, no,
there's no commitment. Nick's got a point
if we
here.
would have gone with a plan, once I locked in, say we were going to either wire the money or we were going to have it go through external bank transfers or something. Once that money's there, it'd have to go through that whole 3, 4, or 5 day process, which we were trying to figure out how to get there even faster. Which I don't know. It just took some trust. It worked out. We learned a lot from this experience.
Plan.
The plan could have been better. We know now what to do. We should just deposit the money.
The first time. It's all good.
But we had the car. We love it.
The car? How's the car? What kind of car did you get? How is it?
It was nice.
Got a Subaru Impreza. Has lots of new features and
does it have love? Because that's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
I don't think so yet. One thing that I quickly realized was something that I'm not used to in my old car is that we had black seats, and even though we have a black dog, it's a black and white dog, and the white gets all over the seat.
Of you.
Yeah.
Yes, very well
we have
mixed.
It's a mixed dog.
Yeah, very, very mixed. But anyway, the fur has gotten all over his seats, so I'm gonna have to figure out some way to get seat covers or blankets or some way that we can bring Maple on our trips without our entire back seat becoming hair.
So Amazon or Walmart will solve the lack of seat cover issue for you very rapidly.
Yeah, lint rollers I feel like is going to be a good option as well.
They're good, but that doesn't fix and I don't know that seat covers will, depending on the kind you get. That doesn't fix the hair getting in between the seat and the middle console and in between the seats and underneath everything. White dog, black interior for me. So very familiar with finding hair everywhere, and it's just a losing battle to try and keep it clean. So I guess when I'm done with my car, I'm just going to burn it because no one's going to want it.
So what you got to do is just train your dog to sit in one spot at all times, and that way you only have one spot of your car dirty.
Yeah, but then you get the whole...
The window opens, and it's just a grenade went off. As soon as a window opens, boom, it's everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
What we could do, because we have video now, we could all show off our pets.
Yeah. Mine's just laying there.
Finger. Gotta figure this out.
No.
You guys.
Not a thing? Okay.
That's your pet?
No.
Okay. Here's my pet.
Brent's on it for showing off pet. Aw.
Oh.
Look at that one. She looks kind of sad.
She's just tired. I was talking about her, and she felt...
Mine's napping upstairs.
Mine is also napping right behind me.
Kyle,
I take the cover off of Zeke
napping.
and have him start waking up.
Yours is always napping.
I know. It's a hedgehog. It's unless I'm sleeping, it's napping. If the lights are on.
If I whistle, she'll come, but I don't want to whistle into the microphone, so or near the microphone. It makes it noise.
We appreciate that.
All right, Brent. What do you got for a topic? I know Brent was good to point out that Nick and I typically take over his topics. So, Brent, what do you got for a topic?
Wait, hold up. If I may, one thing that I learned
What if you
from
may
last
not?
episode.
Yeah, you may not.
You
Just
may.
get into your topic here.
I am going to. I'm taking it. I also heard that we had not been giving enough if I mays, so I'm working on incorporating that
okay.
more into
Wait, who's
Yep.
providing feedback?
our listeners.
His mother.
Listener. Um. Anyway.
Who do we have regular contact with? Did this come through the regular channels? And I don't mean text. I mean like Twitter or whatever we all have.
We're working on that. So
We'll get there.
Anyway, so if I may, yeah, I noticed that Nick in particular last episode admitted to this fact, and I'm just fixated on it because I found it so fascinating. In that he took a personality test last week, in which he is one of 3%, the top, maybe not top 3%, but he's in the 3% of
3%.
dominating personality. So most people have like regular nice personalities, but Nick has a 3% dominant. All right, something
think
like
dominating
that.
means
I'm butchering
mean.
the fact. He's a very assertive person. So when it comes to a talk show where it's all about talking over each other, the whole concept of it, 3%.
And
So
I think you're
I'm just
slightly
going to
onto
carve out
something.
my own niche here.
Because if I may, I think I'm also similar in that aspect to Nick, where like when we both have I think when both of us, either of us have an idea, we need to get it out stat. And I think that might be why we're such good friends with you, Brent. You're so good at listening and reassuring.
Thank you. We should take a personality test to see that. I want proof that I am a friendly, good listener. Nick's just not sure about that, but I think I am. I'd like to think I'm a friendly, good listener.
Such a friendly, good listener.
So friendly.
But I'm
Friendly
I'm putting
neighborhood
my
listener.
foot down. I'm reaching into the 1% or 3% dominating personality. I'm taking this podcast by the
Only 3% of the population can be this personality. Otherwise, we're all at war with one another. Which would also lead me to believe that because Kyle and I were roommates for a fair amount of time, we're not both true D's, which is fine.
Yeah, I'm only in like the 5 percentile. Nick wore the pants for sure.
Apparently, I wear the
honestly
He paid the
that,
bills.
though.
I just gave him money. Oh, so that's actually fantastic. So when Nick and I were rooming,
All right, go for it.
so
Go for it. Fine, whatever. Who cares about my topic?
okay,
Your
good.
topic was nothing. It was a
I
comment
had a
about what I said
topic.
last
I
week.
just had to introduce it. Go for it. I want to hear this roommate story
Okay,
while we still.
I'll keep it short just for Brent. That way you can get back to his topic. When Nick and I were
All the
roommates, Nick had already been in the apartment for quite some time, so he already knew, like, had all the bills in his name and all that fun stuff. So I was just like, okay, I'll just give you cash each week for the for rent plus my half of rent plus bills. So I would end up
Each
taking
week.
like a couple $100 out of my bank every single week or every month, sorry, and just hand it to Nick. And I always tried to make it as drug dealer as possible. So I'd like be in the car and be like, Nick, here you go, or like just hand him the wad of cash and be like, yeah, 20s is good. Like I think at one point I had the cashier do it in like 10s or something like that. Most of the time I just did hundreds, but like they're like, how'd you like that? And I'm like, doesn't matter. It's like most of the time they just give me 20s or like $100 bill and the rest in 20s. But yeah, I liked it looking as drug dealer as possible when I'm paying Nick for my half of the rent / utilities.
So
Those were good times because that was always my fun money. 'Cause
Right?
I could basically front the rent for the
Fun
most
money.
part on my own, and then what you gave me there, I'm like, oh,
Ooh, extra money.
fun time. Let's do it.
Kyle, did you ever give the money in a paper bag, like a lunch sack?
I think I might have
that's,
done
like,
envelope,
scribbled all
but
over
yeah,
it?
no, never in a paper bag.
That's the true.
Yeah, most of the time
that's
I
the
just
true
hand over a
hood way.
wad of cash.
Did you ever do the take the stack of money and just like throw it in his face and as a whole like
I
make
don't
it
know
rain?
if I
kind
did
of
that. I
thing?
definitely should have made it rain.
If you didn't, I think my roommate prior to you did at one point.
Just make it rain.
Okay.
On you with your
This
half
was
of
a
the rent.
joke. Like he chucked like all the 20s at me. I'm like, well played. I'll pick this up.
See, well, like when rent is like $800, $400 in cash, like that's more cash than you typically carry. Like
Oh,
the most I
easily.
typically ever carry on me is like $100, depending on what I'm going, what I'm doing. You carry more than 400 on a daily? If you gotta rob somebody, rob Nick.
That's your guy.
Yep,
right
that's
there.
your
Where's
guy
my-
right there.
Where's my hashtag conceal carry? Like, what's up?
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Wait, Kyle.
All right,
One
go,
thing
Brent.
about it. Did you ever take the rent money, dry out the tub, and then put it all in the tub and let Nick like have a tub of money?
No, I just gave him a wad of cash most of the time.
Oh, man,
It's
I-
you could
sorry.
do all $1 bills and it wouldn't come close to filling a tub.
I didn't have to fill a tub, but you could at least like sit in it. And...
It's really underwhelming when you see that much cash in person. I promise.
Yeah.
Like again, you could do it in once
Yeah,
and it would
yeah.
still be really underwhelming.
420s isn't that many. Like, it's really not that much.
What if you did it
or-
and pennies? I just can't really make pennies rain.
You can.
You
it
can make 'em
just
pelt.
hurt. Yeah.
Penny ale.
So,
Penny
so
ale.
on the same kind of topic, Brent, when you and Heather got married, so for us, we got like all our checks and cash and whatnot. We put it on the bed and definitely like laid on the money, like Wolf of Wall Street style, except not nearly as much money. Did you guys do something similar with all your open cards?
We did not. We
Oh.
had our parents take it to the banks and deposit.
For future reference to anybody giving anybody any money for weddings, make sure you write "or" on the to line. Otherwise, what happens is when you do Kyle and whatever last name, the wife has or whoever changes their last name, typically the wife, has to sign both their last name and sign again with the husband's last name, or vice versa. I guess it depends on who changes their name. So definitely do an "or." That way, just one person has to sign that check, and you don't have to have the whoever changed their name having to sign twice with their old name and their new name.
They really write both names on it? Like,
Yeah,
Is that
vast
common?
majority of people will be like Kyle and Giuliano last name, and so I only had to sign them all once, and then Giuliana had to sign it once with their old name and then again with their new name. So
Oh my
I'm just sitting there like done, just sitting there and be like, "Are you done yet?"
Have you signed it yet? Have you signed
Yeah,
it?
have you signed it yet? And it's anything that had "or" I just signed. That way she didn't have to deal with that one. So yeah, pro tip.
Weird.
Yeah, if you're giving somebody a
Or.
check for their wedding, do "or."
But if
Give 'em trash.
the wedding doesn't work out, and a few days later there's an or, that's gonna be a big fight.
Then I'm
Well,
sure
the
it'll be
wedding
split
is
in
not-
If
half.
you do an
work out.
and, you could just split it in half.
Who's
If it's
dramatic
war.
enough in your life to not have a wedding work out?
Nobody. But just for the listeners out there that they're
Knock
like,
on
If you
wood.
that.
really
Still got
don't
mine
trust the
coming up.
couple, then I suppose do an and.
I want to make sure both of you get it, not just one of you.
Yeah.
All right, so
Brent,
here's what I've been.
Wait,
thinking of.
one more second, one more thing. Brent, what's your topic?
Okay.
So deep.
So
Before we get started, what I'd really like to talk about today, and I'm actually really excited.
if I may, as I blow out the mic, I apologize for
Today-
that.
No, you're good.
Today, Brent,
Okay, so-
you may.
I have been thinking a lot, Kyle, this weekend, out of the blue, because he had, I don't know, maybe too much time on your hands this weekend, Kyle? Not sure. But he comes out and he gives this long list of a game that he had designed. And it's actually, he showed me a prototype that he designed again, because why sit on a great idea? Good for you, Kyle. And I was impressed, and it really started getting me think of like, what is good game design? I know this
If
past
I may.
weekend.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt
Hurt
me.
me,
Sorry.
don't hurt me.
We're gonna get like removed from YouTube now for copyrighted music.
That'd be very
Um,
impressive if you could recognize that.
If I wasn't even on key. Like that wasn't good. Like, but if I wanted to try, we could. I mean, that could be fun.
Different episode. So I was thinking, and we played this weekend a lot of games, and I was kind of thinking of like what makes a really good game, not just like video games, but like board games in particular. And kind of what I was thinking is, it's gotta have replayability. It has to be something that you can play over and over again and not get sick of. It's gotta be something that's simple enough that you can pick up, but then it has to be,
Easy to
complex
learn,
enough?
hard to master.
yeah, it has to have enough depth and layer to it that you can spend a lot of time playing in it. And it has to be colorful, because I don't know, games that are not colorful are pretty
It's gotta be an
boring.
interesting topic
It's
for
what I-
sure.
True. It helps to have like a setting. A lot of times you do games is you want to get away from reality, and a lot of games have backdrops, whether it's a fantasy world or a space world, or it's hard to say. I
So
think card games are kind of the exception to that. It's just you have a deck of cards and what can you do with it. But
if I may, I think one thing that's definitely important is gameplay. I think it's been proven, especially in recent years, where like you're getting a lot of these retro games released, like Celeste, the Shovel Knight series, like a lot,
yes.
Minecraft even. Like when these are released, graphics are not good. Like they're just not good graphics or not up to date graphics. They're gorgeous from a pixel art standpoint, but from like a graphical intensity standpoint, they're not good. And it's but the gameplay and the story behind the games overcomes that, or I guess not counters it, but complements it well enough where it's just a great game. And kind of with your point, Brent, the whole easy to learn, hard to master with the mechanics. I know one of the best games that I remember playing that it just blew my mind was the game Braid.
oh,
So
yep.
that's a fantastic game. The whole game, it's one of those like screw with your mind games too, because you're changing, you're messing with time. You can rewind. You never die through the entire game. If you ever fail, you just rewind time and try again. But certain things are not affected by time. Certain things are affected extra by time. Like if you go in reverse, it then goes faster.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bunch of crazy things with the game, and I don't want to ruin the end. But in the end, you are going through the story, and then when you get to the end, it then reverses time through that story, and it just changes the story completely by reversing through what had just happened. So that's a really cool game that I would definitely recommend picking up and playing through if you haven't. It should be fairly cheap, like $10 max, but a fantastic game. What other games do you guys think are great game design?
So a couple of games that immediately hit my mind. I like games too that introduce kind of a new mechanic, something that's a little bit different. So growing up, there was like Trouble and Sorry, where you roll a dice and you move a little thing. It's like the same exact game. Honestly, that's a marketing marvel to me that those games were able to sell, because they were basically the same game, just kind of repackaged a little bit. But I like mechanics that are a little bit different. Splendor is a game that stood out. It was a game we played actually this weekend. I find that good because there's not just one strategy you can do to win. Every time I play, I always try something different just because there's that sort of scope to the game. Another game I like a lot is the Ticket to Ride series. Just kind of building trains, building missions, and again, a game where there's not just one way to win.
So Ticket to
There's
Ride,
a lot of viable ways. It's Go ahead.
I'm not the biggest fan of Ticket to Ride. I'm really not a fan of games that have a lot of stuff to do with chance. I'd rather be able to outthink my opponent. I definitely agree there should be some chance. Like Risk, for example. There's a lot of strategy, but there is some chance involved where if you have that one battalion defending against 10, there's the slight chance he's gonna be a hero. He's gonna hold that territory. So like I do like a little bit of chance, but I like Ticket to Ride. I feel like that game, although it is definitely fun to play with a group of people and have it more as a group game from a pure game strategy point. If I was just playing random people like online, if there's an online version of it, it's kind of whatever's available to you at the time of your turn. You don't really get to decide too much which direction you go. It's kind of, that's available. Sure, I'll go for that. I feel like you can't really plan out more than one move ahead.
If I may.
You may.
I think you're classified as a noob in that game. Is that the terminology?
I also heard that you're.
Wow.
I heard that you guys also make up rules
Oh,
in that game too.
No strategy. No
down.
strategy. It's all luck.
Sit
No
down.
strategy.
There's no strategy to take it to ride. Oh, I'm Kyle. Sorry, that was me. All right, continue.
Is there a point, Nick? How do you strategize Ticket to Ride?
Honestly, the person to talk to would probably be Megan. She's kind of the top dog in our friend group playing that game. But the biggest summary is the most bang for your buck. You want to get the longest trains possible. Yeah, you got to make the connections, but generally when you choose your connections, you if there's any chance of going along the longest routes possible, you need to go that way. You need to avoid north-south in the middle of the country, at least for the U.S. Different versions, different formats, but the generic strategy that's prevailing is you go for the longest trains possible. If that means you take a longer route, generally on the maps, the outer edges have longer routes. There's a lot more points built into that. There is the chance of getting the right cards at the right time. There's a chance of the missions and how those play off of one another. The European version has like the ability to use a train station to like use someone else's train, I think. But generically, you want to be getting those longer trains because it's six trains, but it's worth 15 points, which is a huge ratio in favor of the player as opposed
your
to
play
the lower levels.
turns per points kind of thing.
Yes. And ultimately, even if you don't accomplish your missions, if you just get all of the 6 rails or whatever you want to call them, if you played the game, you understand it. But if you get all the long trains, you'd probably be in contention without ever having even completed a mission. And if you add a mission to that with just 1 or 2 trains even, you're in pretty good shape for the most. That's the prevailing strategy that I'm aware of. I've never seen a strategy work out all that well where you have to go through the center of the country and connect with a lot of 2s and 1s. That makes, at least in the US version, the East Coast is tough because there's a lot of 1Z, 2Zs connecting. And then there's the very middle of the country going about down from Minnesota straight down. There's just all kinds of 1s and 2s. And you really have to try and avoid those. If you have a mission that goes that route, you're almost better off going around and or just picking another mission entirely if you get stuck with one. But
And I think part of the strategy too is knowing when should I grab missions, when should I grab more cards, how many trains do I have left, how many trains do other people have left, how can I play my route so that it screws up everyone else. When you really think about it, there's a lot of little subtle things you can do to influence the game to give yourself more than just I got really lucky with the cards that popped up to win. Like if you're actually know a lot of the game, you've played it quite a bit, you can consistently win at it.
My big thing is just trying to be as efficient as possible. When you end the game, you want to have the exact amount of cards you need counted out with your trains, because every additional card you have beyond the number of trains you have means if someone was more efficient, they're going to complete everything ahead of time. But that's our pro tip strategy for Ticket to Ride, which is maybe not what we needed to get into, but the opportunity to call Kyle a noob
Ticket to Ride,
something I was going to pass up.
But it was worth it. It was.
Totally worth it.
A game like two, you think somewhat chance. I would think Settlers Catan. That's a game like that where depending on where you get the numbers rolled, you get the resources, that kind of thing. And yet there are people that do competitive Settlers at Catan, where one of the people that Heather went to med school with was like top 25 or something like that in the country and Ticket to Ride. So the fact that you can make sort of a leaderboard of how good people are at Ticket to Ride, I feel like anytime you can get a leaderboard of anything, it's more than just luck, because you had to have some sort of consistency to be continually placing.
I'm not saying,
and getting high
I guess
points.
I'm not saying that Ticket to Ride doesn't have strategy in it. It obviously does. But I'm saying I prefer games that have more strategy to luck ratio. Example, Candyland, 100% luck game. Shoots and ladders.
I disagree.
Ghost was in the
Shoots
back.
and ladders.
I saw Ghost.
100% luck game.
No more.
Where'd she go?
She went to the left. Right, that way. Yeah.
Ooh, is that a ghost?
It's gonna work.
Nope, no
Wait a
ghost.
minute.
Oh, I saw her.
Oh. Look at that recall.
Oh, you're recalling.
That is a well-trained dog.
It's like
right
a Pokemon. Just call it in. Here.
There. Put him in there, Ghost Ball.
Nick, when you start talking about your DLC topic thing. And I'll get
Is it
Zeke woken up.
That's the microphone. That's the microphone. It's very scary. That microphone. That's my ghost voice.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is Ghost.
Sorry.
She's just hanging out with me. No big deal. As you were.
Good. So Nick, I'm really confused. What did you want to talk about this week?
Oh, yes, dicks.
What? No, we can't talk about that. This is a family-friendly program.
What's wrong?
What? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, Dick
Continue.
Grayson,
Yes.
Robin from Batman.
So, similar to the topic last week, or at least briefly mentioned regarding that 3%, the personality test, which happens to spell out disc, or because I'm 12 years old, dicks. And just
Is
watching
that
Brett's reaction is worth the price of admission. Kyle, you have a lovely rear end, by the way, and your microphone is just blocking the butt crack. So we're going to have to work on our video skills. But aside
Kyle's a
from
plumber.
recognizing, we're going to have
Plumber
to work on our videos and the fact that Kyle is now a plumber.
Oh my God, that's
my
great.
topic is going to be the disc stuff, but I'd rather look at the hedgehog there, which is very entertaining.
Yeah. Introduce this fella to us, Kyle.
So this is Zeke. This is our hedgehog. So Juliana and I, when she
You're
moved
blinding
in,
him.
what?
He's cowering from the light. You're
He doesn't
blinding
do
him.
light.
I see that.
Here, actually, I turned this on so you could see him better, but probably shouldn't.
Yeah, see, now he's fine. Now we can see his face.
Yeah,
You
now
look
he's,
so
now he's
happy.
good. But yeah, this is Zeke. Here, This is Zeke. So when Juliana and I officially moved in together, we wanted to get a pet of some sort. And we're like, we don't want anything that's gonna live like crazy long. We don't want that commitment right away. So we started looking into like options. Like we were looking at like chinchilla. Like I was like, I don't want some boring pet. I want something that people are like, oh, you have that as a pet? So we're looking at like chinchillas. I was like, ferret would be fun, but I heard they're smelly. But
True.
so we started looking and we saw hedgehogs, and these guys, they're pretty, if you want them to be zero maintenance, they're basically zero maintenance. So you pretty much just have to, the only thing you have to do is give them a bath like once a month, and then clip their nails. They, like dogs, you have to clip their nails, and then you have to clean their cage. Depending on how litter box trained they are, you have to clean their cage once every week and a half ish. And that's just like dumping out everything in the cage and just refilling it with the wood shavings. But for Zeke here, we got him. He's literally just over a year old. He was born, like 2nd of October last year. So they only live like they typically go like 4 to 5 years, somewhere in that range. And that's actually pretty long in captivity because in the wild they'll typically are a lot less because predators and whatnot. So so we got hedgehog Zeke here, and he's a pretty cool dude. Pretty much the more you hang out with them and the more you hand tame them, the cooler they are with being held. So Zeke's okay. We haven't held him as much recently as we did when we first got him. So, but at this point, he's pretty much, he gets angry at you when you first wake him up, as most animals and people do. And then after that, you can see right now he's pretty chill, and he's just trying. Eventually, he'll start exploring. If you wake him up like middle of the day, he'll get real pissed off, and then he'll just curl up into a ball in your hands, like he wants nothing to do with the world at the middle of his sleep time. It'd be like waking a normal person up at 2 a.m. So, yeah. So he's fun. With hedgehogs, with their quills, so it's at he's climbing. With their quills, they actually so when you're petting them the one way, it's just like petting like a toothbrush kind of thing, and then obviously back the other way, not going to be that good of a time. But when they get all mad, I'll see if I can piss them off a little bit. You can see they'll puff up and get all spiky.
Your little hiss too.
Yeah, I heard that.
A little bit of a hiss, and then my buddy from college had a hedgehog, and we would always go in the same classroom after hours, and some of us would use the projector and play games while some did homework. And it was a group of a pretty diverse group. We had some business folks. We had a lot of engineers because it was primarily an engineering school. But we would just hang out in the room, and occasionally he'd bring his hedgehog, and he'd just let his hedgehog run around on the tables and on the floor. And we made sure we blocked the couple, because it was like small walls separating the different rooms, because school, they had the temporary walls. We'd like block the only exits with our folders and other things, so we wouldn't have to worry about him getting into the building and escaping, biting wires and frying himself or anything crazy. But he left him on the table one day next to me, and he's a bit of a kamikaze. So he went to go like jump off the table, and he was right next to me. And I'm like, oh! And I stick out my hand and I catch him. And of course, all I caught were quills. Like he jumped down and went ball mode, and I'm like, I've got you, buddy. I'm your friend. You wouldn't hurt me. I won't hurt you. And yeah, boom, just
Here
right
to
in,
help you.
right into my fingers. That felt really, really great for a while. But it's a pretty low maintenance, fun pet. The other one that was crazy, a college friend of mine had, was the flying squirrels.
Yeah.
They're not flying squirrels. What are they
Sugar
called?
glider.
Sugar gliders.
Yes, he had a sugar glider, and he actually had two, and I think the one ate the other. Or some crazy thing where they were temperamental and they had some crazy issues, but they would climb.
Brutal way to go.
They'd climb all over you, which is kind of cool, and they'd just kind of leap over and do some stuff. He went all out. He had like a nice play environment for him, and I think he had 2 or 3, and like one murdered the other. And then he still had him for a while, and if they bit, it kind of hurt a little bit. But same thing with the hedgehogs. Even visiting when I did with you, Zeke, because I was unfamiliar or had, even after washing my hands, had food residue enough to make him want to nibble on me pretty consistently. So creatures like that are a lot of pros and cons. I mean, very, very good to have. Low maintenance, can be really cool and unique, but there are some limits with respect to how well you train them. I'd say you've done a really good job, and certainly you can, with more time, it'll become a lot easier, and it's kind of based on how well you do it.
My one experience with Zeke was wonderful, but I got to hold Zeke for the first time a little bit, probably last April, and immediately, it must have been because just woke up, and I can't hold it against him, but I got Zeke in my hand and pooped right in there.
So
I was just like, "Come on, Zeke!" Like,
when hedgehogs are younger, especially, they'll have the nervous poops all the time, especially when they're younger. When they're older, like, I don't remember the last time he's pooped on me not taking a bath. He hates baths, so he'll poop like crazy whenever he's taking a bath, which is very counterproductive. But they'll poop a little bit. Typically, so Nick, you are still the only person he's ever like bit consistently, even after washing their hands. I don't know why. Hedgehogs are not known for biting. I've had them bite and like not nip at me, but like nibble, thinking it's food, maybe twice ever. And like Nick goes to hold him, and he gets his finger bit, and he's like literally like Zeke is hanging off of Nick's finger.
I was holding him on my finger, like this is something.
Yeah, but their natural defense mechanism is their spikes. So like they don't really bite as a defense mechanism. They 100% bite and lick for food or saltiness or something. So I don't know what you had on your hands, or if you're just like a sweaty hand guy, or you had your oils on your hands were extra tasty. But Zeke wanted it.
Nick is just a hedgehog food. That's what he's made out of.
As far as the sugar gliders. Yeah, we were
salty all the time about life. You can taste it.
With the sugar gliders, we did look at those as well. And yeah, they're like super social critters. So you almost have to get at least 2, and you have to consistently interact with them. Otherwise, they pretty much just go rogue. Hedgehogs, he is totally fine to stay on his own. Like, we can just fill up his bowl and his water, and he will be good for a week or until the food and water run out. So, like, you can see, like, right now, I just, like, left his cage door open. Or you can't see. And, like, we've accidentally left the cage door open, and he does not leave. Like, he has his area. He just hangs out there, and he is good on his own. the other thing with hedgehogs is because they are litter box trainable. Like we used to have a litter box in there right under his wheel, which he sometimes uses his wheel more than his litter box for pooping and peeing, which is unfortunate. But the wheel's easy to clean because it's basically like a 2-gallon bucket or a 50 or whatever, the 10-gallon buckets cut off. And yeah, but once he's litter box trained, which is literally just if he poops not in the litter box, you just move it into the litter box, and then he just gets it eventually. So after that, like there's pretty much nothing to clean out. You just take the litter box out, dump it, refill it, you're golden.
So the thing with those pets that I always find challenging is that they're nocturnal. And I thought back in college especially, my lifestyle would be like, if I'm going to get a pet, I want something that's awake during night because that's when I'm home and that's when I want to like pet something. And I think about it now and it's like, I don't want to stay up late and I don't want to have like something that's continually making noise, whether it's running in a wheel or gnawing at something. It's like, I want something that's awake during the day and not at night because I want to be asleep at night now.
So I guess for me with working all day, I guess it's the nocturnal thing still works out fairly well because pretty much once I get home, especially if the lights are off in here, you'll hear him scratching around like 7, 8 o'clock. Otherwise, like 11, like right around now is like prime time for him to start waking up and start messing around. We actually on our YouTube, I tried to record him one night. I think part of the reason we only saw him come out twice is because I had a lamp on so you could actually see what was going on. I don't have an infrared camera set up at all, so that might have deterred him from coming out. But yeah, I don't know. It's not too bad. I mean, it's also the kind of thing where I can just wake him up whenever I want. Like, he'll get over it.
You monster.
Well, I know some people actually train them to be during the day too. It's just 100% when you wake them up. If you get them used to whenever I get home at 5:30 or whatever, you wake them up right away. They'll get used to it and they'll kind of edit their schedule to you. And then the wheel we got for hedgehogs, it has to be like a special wheel because you can't. Their like claws and paws can get stuck in the wheels that are made out of like the wire mesh. So it's literally like a 2-gallon pail. So it's super smooth. So it can't like get any of their feet or claws stuck in it. So it's actually, and it's the bearing, like the wheel bearing for it is a rollerblade wheel, like literally a rollerblade wheel. So it's super quiet. Like you only really hear his feet like pit, 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 pit. If you're, and you can't, unless you're in the same room, you're not going to hear it.
That's one thing having worked at a zoo, I always think about is a lot of these animals that are nocturnal. You can only see them at a certain time of night. I always thought it'd be it's always challenging because you see an animal like a red panda and you want to save a red panda and you need to have them in zoos to do breeding programs and so forth. But if you look at it most of the time during the day, except for a couple times like early or late when the zoo's open, the animal's sleeping. And if you're a guest, you want to come in the middle of the day.
You want to see the animal. And
the animal is sleeping. It's like, wow, that's such a bummer. I wish there was a better way of like zoo at night where it's just all nocturnal animals that you can come at night and see zoo animals instead of, well, what do you do during the day? Well, this animal sleeps. That's like what it does. We're not going to change the schedule because we don't have that. I don't know.
I feel like zoos could do that. They'd have to do like because they wouldn't get any people unless they did it like Friday nights or Saturday nights. Maybe that's it. Friday, Saturday nights. That's the only time they'd be able to do a program for that kind of thing. Like Friday, Saturday night, nocturnal animal adventure with Brent. That's a good pitch right there. You gotta steal. That's a good pitch.
You gotta put the with Brent in there too. That's the promotion. Oh, that's the kicker. That's what gets them.
Nighttime.
So Nick,
Brent.
I still don't know what this DISC is. Disc.
See, you got the letters out of the wrong way. Now it's getting a little bit late, and we can definitely talk about it in the future. And I'd like to go more into detail, but it's the different personality types, and yeah, as we discussed, only 3% of the population is truly dominating. I'm actually not a full D by any means.
That's unfortunate.
No, he's only like a half or a partial.
He only got half a D, that one.
But there's
he's a small D.
A little D, yeah.
There's like S, I think, was social, I intellectual, and C was
creative.
Something else. Yeah, creative probably. But it had the different breakouts, and I actually have again, not with me. We'll do it in more detail in the future. a breakout of the personality types, what drives them, what they fear, how they function in certain situations. The social people just need to talk about everything. They always want to talk. They're more worried about being liked. The dominating group is the group that is afraid to lose. And we debated this because I'm not afraid to lose by any means, but I am aware that if something doesn't go my way, there are consequences. Or if this fails, I know what the steps after that, and it's far less efficient. I want to get from A to B as quickly as possible. And if the direct route doesn't work, I know I'm going to have to go the long way, which irritates me. Now, am I afraid to lose? No, I've lost a lot of things. I'm not the world's best athlete. I am not the smartest person on the planet. So yes, I have lost many times before. I will lose many times again. Not a big deal, but if I can control it, yeah, I want to win. I want to go from A to B. I want to be as efficient, as effective as possible. So
If you ain't first,
with
you're
that,
last.
there are the other personality types that are more reserved. You have typically the really quiet, smart people. You have the, I think we already covered the social people want to talk. And then there were like two aspects who were tended to be more quiet, because D's will talk when it suits them to meet their goals. The social folks won't shut up. And then there's the other ones who are far more quiet, but add from different perspectives, and they have different fears and different points of view of things. So it was kind of a cool exercise, and you're almost never truly one thing entirely, but there were like 2 or 3 questions that could pretty easily slot you for the most part with respect to, are you this or this? Okay, then you have these two. And then to separate those two, are you this or this? And answering just those 2 questions would put you in one of those areas. So we unfortunately just had a little bit of a technical glitch, and all 3 of us dropped at the same time. I blame Brent, but it could have been anybody.
Definitely Brent's fault.
With that, my tangent was going into the different personality types. I think when we are ready to fully discuss it, we can take a quick test and provide a quick test for our listeners to take if they're interested. And there are all kinds of far more in-depth tests that go into far more than just 4 personalities. But it was kind of cool.
If I may, because I know some of our listeners have expertise in this area. If there's one personality test that's better than others, if anyone knows that answer, come forward. I'd like to know, what is the one test to rule them all?
Especially if it's free online that all of us can take.
Because I've heard, like you were mentioning, literally a gazillion different tests, and I'm always curious, like, is there one that's has more weight than others, or are they all just the same thing that's rehashed or recycled? You never know. So if anyone knows the answer, let me know. Continue.
There is no definitive answer. There are only opinions. That's kind of the beauty of the whole situation. But yes, there are a number of different tests that break you out a number of different ways. I think in college we had to take a test that had like 5 or 6 letters that were associated with it, none that were in the DISC profile. But yeah, it's just a fun exercise, and it's really important for business and communication. And I am striving to be a communication expert, and of course I fail miserably. And even if someone perceives me to be a quality communicator, first, thank you. Second, unfortunately, I see every flaw, and I also am aware that there are flaws I'm not seeing, because you can always get better. You can always improve. You can always be more articulate. You can always have those better dramatic pauses. It's just whatever it is.
Pauses.
Pulling out, yeah, exactly. Pulling out those stutters and the you knows and the ums and the this
Like,
and the need to fill dead space. My big pro tip has always just been, be comfortable with silence, even if it's an unnecessary amount of silence in a speech or in some sort of communication. But I know there's always room for me to improve. I know I'm maybe above average, but I strive to be so much more. And other than the actual articulation of what it is you're saying, a lot of it beyond just the speech aspect is how you say it. And learning about these personality profiles has been fun because I'm weird like that. But if you are talking to someone who's incredibly social, it's great to start out with, hey, how are you? What'd you do this weekend? Oh, I had a great time doing this. Oh, the Packers are doing great. Oh, that's awesome. And then after you've really, scratched that itch, you can get to the point, which is if you're talking to a D, you just want to get to the point. You want to get from A to B. If I'm selling you something,
A to D.
What's it going to do? What's that?
You want to get from A to D.
Yes, A to D.
As efficiently as possible.
And then with the other
B and C.
With the other communication types, it's more they need time to digest. They need time to think about it. They may not say a whole lot, but when they do say something, it's going to be of great value. They're not going to give you the regular feedback. They don't want to open up about their personal life. They've been thinking about it. They're thinking about it. They've processed it, and when they finally share what they're thinking, it's going to be more meaningful to them, or exactly what they're thinking, not beating around the bush of, oh well, it could work for us. But understanding those personality types, understanding their communication niches, whatever you want to say, will allow you to more effectively communicate. And as I strive to be a better communicator, it was a lot of good information. So
cool.
So,
yeah, we'll do that in the future.
So I know that I see that you guys, or one of you, have put in some sort of closing segment, but actually I'm hijacking it because one, I just want to kind of pay respects kind of thing, because actually I ended up, so in the company I work for in Wisconsin, I used to work for the manufacturing plant, and then a couple months before I moved to Colorado, I worked in the engineering side of things, and one of the guys I worked with for like those 3-ish months passed away this week.
Oh.
He was only like 38. Great guy. So I just want to kind of pay respects. Mom, it's not the Mark you think it is, but Mark, you're a great guy. T's and P's to your family and whatnot, but
Sorry.
ender on a downer there, sorry, but definitely wanted to throw that in there to kind of give something to him, because yeah, he was a cool guy. He was new to the company. He was only in Plexus for like 2-ish years, but he had a lot of experience in other companies. So, and he was super cool. He was on one of the projects I was working on, and he was always available for, like, even if I felt it was a stupid question, I know I could go to him and be like, hey, how would you do this? That kind of thing. So, cool guy, great guy. Definitely unfortunate to lose him when he's young. As young at 38, that's pretty darn young.
Yeah,
I know he had like
really
at least 1 or 2 kids. I'm not sure what their ages were, but I think they were on the younger side of kids as far as kids go. So
that's tough. That's really tough.
So with that, that was episode 21, season 2, episode 1 of If I May. Hope everybody enjoyed. We're bringing a new episode every Thursday, so stop by next Thursday for another fun episode. Definitely support us by subscribing, sharing, rating, reviewing, liking, all that fun stuff. And then if you want to get in contact with us, definitely send us a DM over on the Twitter at Zarubust, Zarubust, and we will see you guys next time. I'll throw a little bit of air horn.
We can also just shoot Brent a text, seeing as he gets active feedback apparently via text about our.
Yeah, if you know Brent's number, text Brent.
Shoot him a text. We'll
Be up on the phone.
we'll add that to the list of communications.
Right? All right, a couple more air horns. All right, catch you guys later.